And I'm double checking the thing, even though I always double check it every time, even though I've checked it beforehand. And here we go. It's episode 236 of The Platformers, a show about games and nerd culture, and I am your host, Brian Barnett.
I'm Chris Shriver.
I'm Ronny Barrier.
Hey, it's
Hey.
Ronnie. Welcome back, bud.
It's me. Thanks. You invited me back against your better judgment.
It's true. It's true. I wrestled long and hard with it, but I finally, but Josh left, and so I had no choice.
I get it.
So, yeah, I had to put somebody. We're not allowed to have 2 chairs on this show. It must be 3. There must always be a Lich King, as they say. And so we brought Ronnie in to fill that. Surprise! You're the new Lich King.
I've been called worse.
Yeah, back when you were in grade school and everybody called you the bitch king.
You found it. That was it.
Yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about this week. Ronnie and I have been playing a little game that is sweeping the fighting game community for better and for worse. A little game called DNF Duel, which Ronnie actually reviewed for IGN. Yay!
I did. They let me do that.
Yeah, I mean, they chose well.
I'm
They chose
so.
wisely.
Yeah. So what's you came onto it a little bit later than me, Brian. I don't know how you usually wrangle this rodeo, but what are your thoughts about it?
Well, I'll go into my kind of overall high level thoughts. Then I kind of want to get into specifics with you and talk about ways in which this is different from your average fighting game. Because I think there are some really interesting ways that it kind of differentiates itself from the rest of the pack and kind of carves out its own little niche. Both in my heart and in like the greater fighting games community. But overall, I have fun with it. I think it's pretty good. I think it's totally ridiculous in a lot of ways. But much like this is just an Arxis staple, but the characters are all like pretty different. That is something that I really value in whether it be BlazBlue or Guilty Gear or now DNF Duel. Now, and this might be, correct me if I'm wrong, this is Arxis published or it's Arxis co-developed?
It's co-developed, I believe. I don't know exactly what they did totally on it, but they worked with Aiding, who did Marvel vs. Capcom 3, as well as some other fighting games. So it's that kind of nonsense, in case you were wondering.
Yeah, it's that sort of stuff, which Ronnie can definitely speak to more than I can because I have very limited experience with Marvel vs. Capcom. But when you compare it to a lot of other Arc System Works games that I have tons of experience with, specifically like BlazBlue and then also Guilty Gear, a lot of the characters do have a lot of personality. So like Berserker is very reminiscent of somebody like Ragnar the Blood Edge, which is the character that I played in BlazBlue. And like some other characters. The mechanics aren't exactly the same, although some of them kind of are, but like just as far as like character flavor. You know, Enchantress has some things that are similar to Carl Clover and other like puppet characters from Arc System Works games. There is more to differentiate them because there are some characters that just are not much like anything that they've done before or are like things they've done before but like taken to 10. Like Ranger. Like Ranger is different, is kind of similar to Happy Chaos, but like, what if you didn't have to manage resources almost at all and you could just shoot people across the screen and be totally ridiculous?
I mean, yeah, you say that I think that's just everyone. I described it in the review as just something like just a wild game with nonsense characters and nonsense moves. It's they bump everyone's power up to 11 and just say, all right, deal with it. Like, yeah, you've got 12 things you can do that are unfair, but so does your opponent. So you have to just kind of go with it from there. I think the best way I heard it described was a game with MVC and Marvel vs. Capcom like moves, but with Street Fighter movement, which are two things that are kind of incompatible because if you look at MVC, people are super jumping, 3 heights above where the screen should be. and like shooting giant blasts down to the corner and just covering the screen constantly. So imagine that, but you can't get out of the way most of the time. And that's
And
a
there's
lot of what DNF Duel is.
yeah, and there's no air blocking.
No air blocking, no air dashing unless you're playing Dragon Knight or like Kunoichi has a double jump. There's like certain command jumps, but it's a relatively grounded game for how crazy it is.
It's really nuts, but it's also committal.
Yeah.
So it's one of those scenarios where yes, Hitman has a crouching medium attack that goes 2/3 of the way across the screen, but Ranger also has guns that can shoot you from across the screen. Launcher has rockets that come down from the sky. Like there's just screen control is so accessible to so many characters, and because you can't block when you jump, staying on the ground is more advantageous than in other fighting games I've played. Because I think in every
Yeah.
fighting game that I've played, you can block in the air. I think this is the first one that you can't.
Yeah,
Which
it's become pretty common
yeah,
lately. The I think what really made it kind of click for me when I first started playing, I was like, this feels clunky, this feels heavy, I don't really like this. But the fact that you are under constant threat at full screen at all times, I think kind of makes you always have to be on your toes, even if it seems safe. Because like you said, I mean, Hitman, Vanguard, all these different classes have a low attack that's super quick that can cover 2/3 to anywhere from there to full screen and then convert that into major damage into
yeah.
knockdown and the match is over. So forgot to duck across the screen, too bad. That kind of thing. So there's they let it be tense and they let it be weird without, I think. I can't say it's not unfair yet. There are like things like infinites in the game that they're working on patching out. There is some stuff that's just busted, but that's just par for the course fighting game right now. And it's hard to say what the long-term health of it is going to be. But as for right now, I think they were like, yeah, let's just give everyone nonsense and kind of see what happens.
Yeah, and that's kind of I'm really curious to see how the meta shakes out because everything is so ridiculous. I think I saw someone say something on Twitter, which is like, we don't really know how much of the nonsense that feels like nonsense now is actually nonsense, which I've definitely experienced before because not necessarily in Guilty Gear, but in very early Dragon Ball, Goku Black was like considered to be extremely powerful. And even though they didn't take hardly anything away from him, uh, his power level kind of scaled off, and he just fell off a cliff, and is largely considered. I don't know about the most recent patch because there's a lot of stuff that they gave him, but until this latest patch, he was considered one of the worst characters in the game because he didn't really have ways to open people up. It was stuff that was tricking people early on, but once you know to look for it, it's not really a threat. And
Yeah.
I,
Well,
I
it's kind of
wonder how
a
much of that is going to be true here. Some of it is like when you and I were fighting. I've been playing Ghostblade primarily, and you were playing Dragon Knight. Like a lot of round starts, you would jump up into the air, do an air dash, and I'd be getting pressured. But then as soon as I learned, oh, I can do my forward mana attack, and I can have my ghost slice upwards into the air and then slice backwards, and then you can't block in the air. Like now I can take advantage of this situation. It's like this thing that felt so oppressive. I just didn't know the answer to it. And then I figured out the answer and then we move on.
yeah. Mitchell Saltzman, who I think has been on the show, is
Yeah.
also at IGN. One of my friends. We play with him a lot. He put it in a really good way in that it's just a game of knowledge checks. Like if you don't
Yeah.
know what the other character can do, you're going to get your teeth kicked in until you can figure out what they do and what you have to do to stop it. There's giant fire tornadoes that cover the entire screen. There's giant fire wheels that cover half the screen. And like,
Inquisitor.
yeah, if you don't know like what to do, you're just going to be stuck there, and it's gonna give you a bad day. And Chris, I don't want to take you out of this completely, but just hearing that a game has all these insane characters who could do crazy things, does that make you want to play it more or less as someone who doesn't really go into fighting games?
I would say it's less only because of the what sounds like is a time investment, right? Like, given that you need to know, like Brian and I have this really bad habit whenever a new fighting game comes out where he'll say, we gotta I'll pick it up and he'll say we have to play together, and he'll have played it for 3 weeks, and then I play it and he just kicks my teeth in over and over again. And this seems like the perfect type of scenario where not knowing anything about how any of these characters behave, and him, at that point probably knowing the vast majority of the roster. It seems like the type of thing where it's like if you don't get in there from the jump, and you go into an online match, like you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
Now, if you're into the type of fighting game where there is a lot of, it's more strategic, right? It's less. It sounds like it's less reactionary. I mean, obviously every fighting game has that, but like it's less skill and more just like you said, that knowledge check. Then and making sure that you have like the full breadth of what's happening in this game. It's really, do you like it? Does it look cool enough, and do you like it enough for the investment?
Yeah, for sure. It's tricky because this is a fighting game question that I don't know has an answer. But how do you get more casual people into it, and how do you keep them in it? Because it's probably one of the more frustrating genres out there, because if someone knows what they're doing, or if they have solid fighting game fundamentals coming from other games, and a quote-unquote beginner or someone who's not really in the genre all that much jumps in, how do you keep them from not, pulling their hair out and then leaving immediately, being like, well, obviously I'm years behind in this. How do I even do this now? And so they do things like simplified controls, which this game has, like special moves. You can just press a direction and a button, or just a button by itself. So you don't have to worry about, fireball motions or dragon punch motions or 360s, crazy stuff like that you have in Street Fighter. So I don't know how you on-ramp people smoothly and have them keep going and not hit that wall of frustration. I don't know if there's an answer there, Brian. I'm not trying to, I feel like I'm hijacking your podcast and asking everyone the questions.
I mean, this is why I asked you on, because
Yeah.
you're great to have on the show.
Do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do, and I think that Arc System Works is one of the better companies as far as handling this, and I think that how big Dragon Ball is partly because of the license, of course. Dragon Ball is huge, but I think also it's adding things like auto combos. It's adding things like things that are easy to input but are still really flashy and satisfying and powerful. Like things that are easy to do but are powerful. And I feel like this is where DNF Duel kind of excels. As much as there are knowledge checks, and as much as it might feel, Chris, like if you don't get in on the ground floor, you're kind of screwed. I actually don't think that's the case with this game. I feel like, because so many of the options that so many of the characters have are so strong, it's pretty easy to just jump in, press a button, be like, oh, that's really good, I'm gonna do that again, and like just kind of feel your way through it. And because, like Ronny said, the inputs are so simplified, there are opportunities for you to, I think, gain an advantage on your meter recovery if you do more complicated inputs than if you just do these straight button inputs on the mana using moves. We should probably get some framing information in on this before too long. But because that's so easy, this definitely feels like another one of those games where it's really easy to jump into. The mastery part of it is the learning your opponent's moveset, learning the different things that your character can do and how to use those to create advantageous scenarios. But I actually found that pretty easy compared to other things. Like,
I mean, you do have close to 1,000 hours in Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Yeah, like that's just it. Like you have this, not only a game that like is from half the developer, I'll say, right? But it seems like it's almost quasi modeled after, like Dragon Ball. I think people were able to pick up on it because a big part of it because of the license. So like you have this affinity to like, okay, I want to see how this character behaves in this game. And it was just fun to play, even if you weren't that good at it. Like like you said, like there were things in it that made it look flashy.
Super Dash,
yeah,
like the cinematic supers and stuff. Yeah,
the Kamehamehas. Like I don't know who these characters are in this game. Like I have no affinity to them.
It is a licensed fighting game based on a mobile RPG.
Yeah,
it's like one of the highest selling games in Korea of all time.
Yeah.
But
wow,
it has not much presence here. Yeah, it is.
dungeon
It is
and
huge
fighter.
overseas.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, like it, and it's not me. I'm not saying any of that to like belittle this game at all by any
No,
means.
not at all.
So I just want to get that out there. But I think if there is, I feel like a lot of these games, like if you can get somebody like me through the door, it ends up living and dying by what is the single player content for me to learn how to play this game, because chances are I'm not going to want to go online and just get spanked for hours and hours on end. And then beyond that, what do the training areas look like? Are there missions around certain things, or am I just going into like a dojo mode and just trying to figure out different combos? And then you start to build a community around it. But yeah, I think it's like anything. Like if you slap an existing IP on it, you're much more likely to garner a huge just pool of people versus like Korea. I'm sure this is huge in Korea right now because they do know these characters. But I mean, I wouldn't have even heard of this game had you guys not come on the show and talked about it.
That's the thing is like, especially, and we just may not be the market for this, and that's totally fine too here in the West. But I think licensing is super important. I think that's why Dragon Ball had the success it had. Like it's a really fun fighting game too. But the online netcode isn't the best. The game is kind of insane to watch. It's hard to tell what's going on, but the license is so good. The original material is so good that kept people in there at the beginning. And I think I agree about the single player content. That's one of the things I kind of talked about in the review. Is I gave the game an 8 because I think it plays really well, and I think it has a great foundation for just a really cool future in the industry. But the story mode's kind of trash. It's like
the writing is pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. It's like 15 to 20 minute visual novel vignettes with like barely understandable reasons for why these people are fighting each other. Like they're literally compelled by a
5 or 6 fights or something
to fight each other. There's no reason. As far as the training modes, there are like combo trials, and there are info panes that pop up and say you want to use this move in this situation, and that kind of thing. So that I do appreciate.
Yeah, like in the just the character bios on the character select screen will tell you when you're like in the tutorial menu, they'll list out this character has a lot of moves that are easy to use. This character has special moves that can chain into each other. This character has like I forget like what else there's like a lot of stuff. Like this character can like shoot from across the screen, or like can control like a pet character or whatever. Like there's a bunch of like descriptors in there where you can like quickly thumb through the 16 characters? 12 characters? 16 characters. And you can just be like, okay, what are they good at? And then you can jump in and they'll walk you through. These are their normals. These are their specials. These are their like mana using moves or whatever. And then here's like, they'll give you like a list of like, I think 8 combos or 8 or 9 combos that you can do with like increasing difficulty. Although I'm not sure how many of those are actually useful. Like I found that like the ones that they were having me do on certain characters, like even midway through, were like really tight timing or like just kind of weirdly timed. Like particularly with Ghostblade, which is the character that I play. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the single player content is not great. It kind of feels like a more extreme version of what I thought of Guilty Gear Strive when it first came out, which is like, I don't love everything that's around it, but once you're actually in the game, it's really fun. That's stuff that can get fleshed out, over time. I don't know that it will. I don't know, Ronny, if you have any. Yeah, it's kind of seems like
when you have like names like Striker and Grappler and Ranger, I think they're less concerned about the stories of the characters and more just about the mechanics and how wacky it can get.
Which is fine.
Totally.
But so an interesting thing about this game and where it kind of differentiates itself from other games is there is a block button. You can still block by like holding backwards, but you can also just hold like I think right trigger or something, and that will just
whatever you want.
that will just block, and it doesn't matter which side somebody attacks on. So if somebody is trying to set up like a left-right mix, if you use the block button, that just negates it. It doesn't matter. And so that makes defense easy if you're focusing on actually using the block button. But also, the game still has a grab, and it's also got a dodge roll, which is really interesting and important to use. You hold the block button when you're holding a directional input. Actually, I think you can only roll forward, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can only roll forward, but you can roll like through your enemy, which is a great way that I've used to like escape pressure that's fake, or like try to, if somebody's trying to set something up, I'll just roll to the other side of them and then punish them from the back, which is interesting. And I don't think I've played a game where you could do that.
Yeah.
I think the closest, actually, I think Persona you can do that, but I think that's the only other one that I've played where you can.
They're getting mixed up in my head. I'm pretty sure there was one in Grand Blue, but I don't remember
Yeah,
if
I
it had
didn't-
the same properties.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
play
like-
that.
Think about the rolls, you can get thrown out of it like crazy. So
Oh, interesting.
yeah, there's definite disadvantages to using it, but I mean that's a fighting game. Any mechanic that you can have, there's going to be a counterplay to it.
Yeah, there's layers.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the block button. Even in Mortal Kombat, I didn't like that really either. I like the left-right mix-ups and things like that, and just being able to hold a button rather than having to know which way you're going to block is a little weird. I usually end up still just blocking it in a direction anyway, which is probably bad because then, I can be hit from behind. But
That's how I've been doing it. I typically haven't been using the block button, but a lot of people that I've been fighting, like yourself and Mitch and other people, have not really been going for left-right mix-ups, probably because you could just block button it. But also, a thing that I thought was interesting about you not using that to avoid left-right mix-ups is, before we started the show, I was literally just talking to Chris about Android 21's mix, like level 3 mix, that Ronny, you're welcome. The Arc System Works gods have smiled upon you. That doesn't exist anymore. I can't do that left-right off of Majin.
everybody said amen.
Yeah.
No more getting hit by that, thankfully.
Yeah. But another interesting thing that this game two more interesting things that it has is, one, your resources come back very, very quickly, and you don't have to do a lot to get them. You have
when you say resources, oh yeah, you're gonna go through those.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have a mana bar, and you start with 100 mana, right? And you've got your light, medium, and heavy attacks in this game, and then you've also got your special attack, which is like each character's unique thing. So for Ghostblade, my character, this is the button that he uses combined with different directions to send out his ghost to do attacks, or to do his own like sort of attacks and then follow up on them and stuff like that. So this uses mana, and you can exhaust your mana if you use too much of it. You can overspend, but then it takes longer to charge back up. But it does charge back up, and when you're not using it, it charges up pretty quickly. So you can kind of more liberally use your really powerful moves. And that's kind of what the game is set around, is like using your character's special mana using moves. As you take damage, your mana upper limit increases. So you go from 100 to 200, 300, 400. I forget what the cap is, but it's like the whole bar. But you're also managing white damage and red damage. So when you get attacked, there's chip damage in this game. But if you your chip damage is white health, and if you don't get hit for a couple of seconds, your white health starts to heal back up. If you get hit by a special attack, like one of those mana spending moves, however, it will destroy all of your white health that you have. Certain characters play around that, like the Berserker on the back of Ronnie's screen on his PS5 right there. The Berserker there has a mechanic that specifically plays around that. He can hit his special button, and it will activate his kind of Berserker mode, and it will slowly deplete his health. Well, then if he gets hit by a special move, he's going to lose all of that. So it's risk reward. But you can also do something called conversion, where you can delete your own white health in exchange for canceling the recovery on any of your moves or most of your moves.
Yeah.
Most of them. So you can use that, like if you do something unsafe to try to catch somebody and it doesn't work and you don't want to get punished, you can do that, get rid of the white health that you would have healed in exchange for keeping yourself safe, which is important because a lot of punishments in this game, a lot of punishes in this game can be like half of your health up to 80% of your health, or you're just dead. So sacrificing that amount of health, even a large amount of health, even though that seems like a really daunting proposition, might actually be the best decision sometimes. So even though the game is overall very simplistic with like light, forward light, back light, like just these directional input, like simple inputs, systems like that kind of give this game its depth. So instead of being necessarily execution heavy to just get in the door, that stuff is kind of saved for strategizing about how you're going to use these different systems or getting into like really advanced combos for like maximum damage or what have you. So it because of that, I do actually feel like this game is more approachable than a lot of other ones. Like you don't really have to learn about rapid cancels or things like that the way that you do in Guilty Gear. At least that's how I feel about it. Ronnie, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of said in the review that I think it's got a really good, smooth on-ramp there at the beginning, and then people are going to hit a brick wall for a while. And if you want to bust through that wall enough, there's a really great game on the other side of it. I think if someone like Chris were to pick it up, I think you would have a lot of fun with it for a few hours, but like going up against someone who understands those systems would be really tough. And I think the game's niche enough to where casual people playing it are going to fall away pretty quickly, I think. I don't think there's going to be anyone but the people who really understand the systems playing for a while. I can't speak for the Korean market. The first day I played in ranked matches, I did play some people from Korea. It felt pretty good in terms of netcodes. Maybe there will be a kind of a thriving scene there. But I don't know. I think people, it's almost like a deer in headlights or like a false sense of security situation to where like, oh, this is pretty, oh no, what am I up against? That kind of thing. So, no, we'll have to see. That's trying to predict the longevity of any fighting game is kind of a fool's errand.
Yeah.
But I think there's enough there for it to stick around for a while, for sure.
It definitely has promise.
Yeah. I like it a lot. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's well, yeah. You do think it's great.
Great point out.
Great
If anyone
point
is curious, I just saw this and thinking I'm lying about all this. I know I only have one trophy on PlayStation, but I reviewed it on PC. So
yeah,
I just have it up here for the very pretty background art. The shirtless man back there.
He's ripped. He's ripped out of his mind.
Chris, where did we lose you in there? Was it somewhere around white damage?
Yep. almost exactly. Yeah, I was like, okay.
Yeah, it happens, but I was trying to give an explanation of it.
And that wasn't a knock on you, Brian. I'm just in terms of like mechanics.
I know that sometimes
game,
I can
I'm
go
trying
on.
To figure out, where it would lose someone.
Yeah.
Well, no, but it's also like, if it's a like, and again, this is no offense to the game or you guys or whatever or the fighting game community. This is a game I will never play. Like,
for sure.
It's just never gonna happen for me.
Yeah.
But I will more than gladly sit quietly while I listen to these two intelligent human beings tell the world about this new title.
Thanks, man.
DTF Duel.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to say about it?
I hope they patch that Crusader Infinite. That's very annoying.
God, it's so easy to do too.
Yeah, you can Crusader, big Jesus man. You can keep bumping this. You can knock someone to the ground, press one button over and over, and then kill them.
They
to
just
death.
die.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
There's some busted stuff. It does need to get patched.
It's an aiding game. They're all busted when they start, and they're busted at the end. It's the fun part during the middle that you get to enjoy. I mean, I think Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is one of the most busted games out there, and it's just a true classic. So busted isn't always bad. Busted can be super fun. But one button infinites, not as much fun. They should fix that.
Yeah. Dead or Alive 2 and 3 also had a few of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. It's good. I would recommend it, particularly if you're not. I know that there are some people who are not satisfied with the recent patches for Guilty Gear Strive and Dragon Ball Fighters, and if you're not like in the KOF camp or something like that, and you don't have like something you're looking for something new, like I think this is interesting enough to check out.
Yeah.
And it's I think it's what, like $50?
I
Something
think
like that?
50 in the US. There's a kind of a controversy around it to where it's priced horribly in other regions. I can't remember where, but it's like way more expensive than it should be in some places. But it's $50 US, I believe.
Yeah, it's 50.
Yeah.
It's 50. Yeah, and it's available on
PC and PlayStation.
Yeah.
Ronnie,
Cool.
Chris,
why do Xbox players never get fighting games? What is your theory on this?
other than Mortal Kombat, it's kind of a uniquely Japanese genre. There's so many anime fighters. There's
AI, I guess also.
KI, yeah, of course, for Microsoft. But that's a great question, and I think they've been courting that for a while. I mean, Dragon Ball Fighters is on Xbox, but
Street Fighter 6 is coming there.
It seems like specifically this generation, there haven't been, like, at least as far as that. What was it? Guilty Gear.
Yes. Yeah,
this
Guilty
game,
Gear
I know
Strive.
there was at least one or two other ones that, for whatever reason, and every time it comes up, Brian is usually the one to ask that question, so I figured I would ask it for him because he doesn't like using his PS5.
Oh yeah, I've heard Brian's woes with that D-pad.
Yeah,
It's so bad.
It's fine. We can argue about this later.
Yeah.
I mean, Xbox does not have a great foothold in the Japanese market. I mean, that's no secret.
Yeah.
I'll hand it to them though. They are working on it. Like
They are.
They put several games that were PlayStation exclusives for a while and were either justifications for me and like stuff that I had held in my heart as like I'm always going to be buying PlayStations, like Disgaea or like Persona and things like this. The Game Pass PC got Disgaea 4 complete and like some other stuff like that, and Persona is coming to Xbox, so they are working on it, and I do respect that a lot. Street Fighter 6 is coming to Xbox, which is nice. So I think that this is just something that's been I think it probably part of it is due to the fact that like I think Ronnie was leaning into that, like a lot of the biggest fighting games are made by Japanese developers, and like Japanese developers typically end up putting their games on Japanese platforms first.
And also, now that I think about it, bringing up Street Fighter 6, I think Street Fighter 5 being PlayStation exclusive was a big deal, like bigger than we realize. That's when that was before Monster Hunter World. That's when Capcom was in kind of a dire straits, and they could take a deal like that. Right now, they can go everywhere because they're back on their high horse. But I mean,
and they actually said the Capcom management said that they were focusing on PC also.
Yeah. But if you think about 360, I mean, Blaze Blue, those were all on there. Virtua Fighter was even on 360. There was a lot of, I mean, DOA was still big back then before they microtransactioned it to death. But I think Street Fighter 5 coming out on PlayStation only was kind of not a death knell, but more of a canary in the coal mine of like, this is where fighting game players need to be.
Yeah.
And fighting game enthusiasts like are fans of the genre, usually not just one game. And so they kind of made their decision early. If you
play fighting games in general and you are going to be getting all of the games and you have to have a PlayStation to get Street Fighter, you might as well just have a PlayStation and then just get everything else there.
Sure.
Yeah. And that was Guilty Gear Xrd was also exclusive to PlayStation. Even though Guilty Gear 2 was on 360. And during that era, like when you went now, like, and it's been this way for a long time. Nowadays, when you go to like fighting game tournaments at venues or during like professional tournaments and things like this, like PlayStation is the standard like console that you're playing on.
I
So
mean, Sony just bought Evo, the biggest fighting game tournament in the world.
Yeah.
So,
exactly. But like during the 360 era, that wasn't the case. You'd show up to a venue and they'd be playing on 360s because that was more reliable. There was more stuff there. There were a few things that were like where either special editions or second versions of the games were only showing up on PS3, like Persona 4 Arena. Like Persona 4 Arena, the first one showed up on both platforms, but I think Persona 4 Arena Ultimax was only on PS3.
Yeah.
I might be misremembering.
I get them mixed up because the Japanese version is called like Super Ultra Suplex Hold, which is the title that I want to keep in my head, and then I can never remember where they go.
And then there were like little differences between stuff. Like I think the special editions of like the Blaze Blue games still came out on both.
Yeah,
and
I
things like
had
that.
them all on 360.
Yeah. So and I found that like really interesting because I'd played before that I'd played fighting games all with a D-pad, but once I got used to playing Persona 4 Arena on the 360 controller, I just used the analog stick as my input, and it like worked totally fine. It like totally I was able to totally adapt my way of playing to that platform.
I was
I
was a stick player all the way through 360, and then that got too expensive, so I had to stop.
Yeah, I was stick on
that.
PS3, but then when I switched to 360, I stayed on the pad.
Yeah.
And then I was pad until very recently. But
I remember that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like this is something that hopefully was only a big deal during the PS4 generation. And now we'll get more games going more places, hopefully with crossplay, because that's a huge deal. Because like Ronny was saying earlier, like these games live and die by their longevity, by people being engaged with the community for long periods of time. And if we loop together PlayStation and PC and even Switch and Xbox, and we can pool all these players together so they can all play together, it's gonna mean for a much more healthy fighting games industry. It's gonna make for healthier competition and things like that. And way more people are gonna be able to enter tournaments, which is awesome. So,
Sure.
But yeah, DNF Duel. It's really good. Check it out.
Great.
And hit me up if you want to play. If you want to get ghost bladed. Okay, what do we want to talk about next? I've got a couple of other things. What I'm bringing this week is Cuphead, the Delicious Last Course, and Yurukill, the Calumniation Games. Or we can talk about whatever you guys got.
You lost me on the second one.
I'll explain it. It's weird.
We can talk about Cuphead first. You seem eager given your shirt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a shirt for the other two games. I don't have a DNF Duel or
You're not gonna rip it off and have a
Yurukill
every
shirt.
topic he just keeps.
Yeah. I wear layers. Yeah, so we can talk about Cuphead. Cuphead, the Delicious Last Course. This is something that a lot of people have been waiting for, and I was really excited to get my hands on. Thanks so much. Thanks so much to the wonderful people. I mean, I've beaten it, so it's like
okay.
Yeah.
What you said, you were excited. Past
I
tense.
were
I
excited.
was like, what's happening?
It sounded like you were like, I was excited, and then I played it, and now I hate myself.
Okay, I'm glad it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
No,
you're building this up here.
Yeah. I mean, I might be. You don't know. You don't know me. Anyway, big thanks to the people over at Pop Agenda who sent me a key. So this is around 4 hours long. It's really affordable. It's only like $8 for the DLC.
It's only 4 hours long if you can beat it.
True. It could have been a lot longer.
Yeah.
But that is 4 hours give or take, because I also when I was reviewing this, I was playing it on PC. Previously, the most that I had played Cuphead, I'd played it on like a couple of different things, like on Switch and Xbox and stuff. I played most of it on Xbox, so I had to replay some of the beginning, go through, get some of the coins, beat some of the bosses, and stuff like that, just to kind of like get back up to speed. And like it had been a while since I played Cuphead before this, before I jumped into the DLC. So like some of that 4 hours might be like, I don't know how accurate the Steam clock, the play clock is, and then how much of that was me like doing run and gun levels trying to get coins or whatever. how much of that was playing the original game, but somewhere around that. There are 7 bosses in the DLC, which is a pretty healthy helping, and they are widely varied. So it really does feel like you're definitely getting your money's worth. There's also a lot of cool upgrades that are in this one. There's some cool puzzles. The art, as always, is just beautiful. The music is incredible. Definitely still as rage-inducing as the original. But I had a freaking blast with it. Like, it's so good. It definitely goes on my favorites for the year list. One tip that I will give to people if they are going to play the original game and then this, is save some of your coins. If you want to buy the new stuff, save some of your coins from the original game before you bring it in. Like, don't buy everything from the original game before you come in, because the way that you unlock coins in the DLC is different from the base game. In the base game, you just did these run and gun platforming things, and you just jumped up and like picked the coins up. In this DLC, you have to complete levels and bosses that are specifically part of like a series where you can only use your parry, and that's the only thing you have. You can't shoot or anything like that. So it's just
like when you beat Miss Chalice in the first game, that kind of thing.
That like ghost level or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how you unlock the DLC also. So if you're going into the main game, if you've spoken to Miss Chalice, if you've unlocked one of those mausoleum levels, there'll be like a guy next to a boat nearby, and you can talk to him and he'll sail you to the DLC island.
Sounds shady.
It definitely is. But yeah, so they are like that, but the difficulty is cranked way up, and you can definitely die. Like, it's not like one of these things where, you know, I don't actually remember if you could die in the mausoleums. I like aced all of them.
Yeah,
I don't remember if you
hard,
could get,
so I don't know.
Yeah.
I actually literally just played that with my brother last night. He came over, and we just started from the beginning because he had never played it before. And we got to the mausoleum level, and I was like, "This level's easier than I remember."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the just to give you an example, the first in the first area, it's all set around like chess. Like the specifically the coin levels are set around this king's competition around chess. So you're in this bottom level, and there are a bunch of pawns at the top, and their little round heads are all pink, and they drop down and then run across the screen from one side or to the other. So you have to dodge them falling, and then parry their heads. Once you do that, their heads disappear. They can still go up to the top and jump down again, but you have to parry the ones that are still pink until you clear them all, and then that ends the level, and you get, I think, 2 coins for that.
Okay.
The end one is you have to fight a boss, but the way that you fight the boss is running left and right in the background, throwing stuff at you all over the place, and there are cannons that are like rotating left and right, and you have to parry them while they are matched up with where the boss is, but there's also like a slight trajectory time. It's really difficult.
Oh my god.
It's really difficult, but it's not essential because that's not a main boss. That's just if you want the coins. But I wanted to get all the stuff from the shop, and you have to do that to get that. They do introduce some good new weapons. Like, I really like the new tracking weapon. It's a weapon that shoots straight forward, kind of. It's kind of like a split the difference between the main gun that you start with, the blue one that just fires straight, and the homing one. What happens is it's a pink shot, and it moves forward for a while, and then if it hits something or it doesn't hit something, it will ricochet and home towards whatever's close to it. So
it's pink. Can your teammate parry it?
No.
So that's like the only pink thing in the game that's not parryable?
Oh, maybe it's red. I don't know. I didn't play multiplayer, so I don't actually know if you could parry it. I wouldn't think that you'd be able to.
That'd be kind of cool.
But it might not. It's not like the same color as pink parrying things.
Oh, okay. That was one of the coolest things from the base game is you just knew anything that was that shade of pink you could parry, and you probably needed to for a mechanic. So I was wondering, like, could a teammate parry it and then like set off a mini explosion or something? Or
if you can, oh baby, that's gonna be awesome. I need to test this out, Ronnie. If you have this game on PC, let's test this out.
I have it on Switch, but I'll figure something out.
Okay. But yeah, it's really good. I use that actually for a lot of fights. I think I did the spread shot as my second weapon, and then the homing one as my first. But one of the big things about this game is you can play as Miss Chalice. So you change your, you can equip a charm called the Cosmic Cookie. And this has to do with the whole bakery thing in this game. The premise is Miss Chalice is trying to regain her body and not just be trapped as a ghost. So this baker is like, hey, if you gather these 6 ingredients, I can make a pastry that she can eat, and then she can get her body back, and it'll be great. Until then, she actually has to trade places with one of the characters. So you still play as Mugman or Cuphead in this game, but if you're wearing the charm, the Cosmic Cookie, it will switch you with Miss Chalice, and then you'll play as her. She's got new mechanics too. She's always has a double jump, which is incredibly helpful. She's also got an invincible roll across the ground, an advancing roll that's invincible. She's also got a dash or air dash that's on the parry button, and it's also a parry. So she's got like an advancing, she moves forward like an inch or two and parries while she's doing it. So this lets you set up kind of different things. So you have a lot more movement. You can double jump and then parry and get like kind of extra movement that Cuphead and Mugman don't have.
So is she like the Funky Kong to Donkey Kong in Tropical Freeze on Switch? Like, is it like something?
Oh, I did not play Tropical
Cool.
Freeze.
Yeah, like
Funky Kong's like easy mode, right?
Yeah, like I guess does
Yeah.
this create a easier version of like I guess can you go back to the base game as her?
Yes, you can.
So
I would say she was easier, except for one key thing. Her dodge is not invincible. The only invincible move that she has is her roll, which can only be done on the ground. And because most of my gameplay was done with the invincible dash charm, that really made things difficult for me. I still played the whole game as her because that's what I was trying to like. I'm trying to like examine how is this character, all this sort of stuff. I'm looking at it from like a critical standpoint. I want to look at what this character does for the
within
game.
the content that they created for her. And
exactly. And she's great. Like I got very comfortable using her, but it was instead of dodging through things, I had to plan and work my way around using the double jump. Okay. Which is fine. Like I got through it, but there were times when it was harder because I didn't have a move that I could just use to get out of jail free and just invincibly dash through something. But because that invincible dodge is a charm and the Cosmic Cookie to play as Miss Chalice is also a charm, you can't use them at the same time.
Right.
I want a Cosmic Brownie right now.
No joke, man. No joke.
You got to stop saying Cosmic Cookie.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so there's 6 main bosses. It's the same deal as the base game. You can fight them on easy, which removes their most difficult phase. But it doesn't give you the ingredient when you beat them. You have to beat the like actual 3 phases, the full 3 phases on normal difficulty to get the ingredient and then enable yourself to fight the final boss. But I think that some of the ideas that they've put into this are like really, really unique. I think that usually plays to the game's benefit. There was one boss fight that I found like pretty obnoxious. There's a dogfighting one where you're fighting a series of enemies, and one of the phases, the enemy will come from the background and like bite and twist the camera. And then you have to, your input stays the same, but your like the directions that you're looking at change. So like you can be going, oh, I'm going left and right, but it's actually like inverted because you're upside down. And it's a little difficult. It was a little difficult for me. Like your mileage may vary, of course, but like you remember back when I was complaining about that Owlboy boss fight where it like kept rotating the camera, but kept your like input focused on like the same sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So like you could hit left and not actually move left on the screen because it was based on your character movement. I found that really disorientating. But generally I think that the new mechanics and or new ideas that they have for boss fights are like really good.
Okay, one thing I need to ask about because it was not clear during that entire last explanation. You
Sure.
said dog fighting, and then you talked about someone taking a bite out of something. So is this like a dog fight like in a pit or a dog fight like in plains?
In planes.
Okay, thank you. But there's actual dogs.
There is actual dogs.
So
It is a
dog
dog
fighting.
fight. It is literal
I'm
and
back at the beginning.
figurative. It is literal and figurative. You are fighting canine military members in jets.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No further questions.
It's real cute. It's great.
Sounds like it.
But it's beautiful. It's fun. I love it. It extends what is one of the best indie games made in recent memory, like to like an even further degree. I think that everything that was great about the original is great about this. And I think that some of the things that it does in the boss fights are more creative, more expansive, more involved. So it really is like what you would want from this sort of a DLC expansion. And it's so affordable. Like if you're a fan of Cuphead, there's really no reason not to. I find it a little annoying that there were that you got coins not based on more like run and gun platforming levels, but it was like locked to this like competition. Which means that unlike in the base game, you can't just run from run and gun level to run and gun level, load up on a bunch of coins, and then buy stuff you want. You have to beat that one, get to the next one, beat that one, get to the next one, and you don't actually get that many coins for doing it. That I found a little bit obnoxious. And I really think that this DLC nails home that like Cuphead really needs a Celeste-like accessibility menu where to make this game more accessible to more people, because this game is hard as shit, but it's so beautiful and it's so inventive that like I really think that they need to like give people like infinite jumps or like way more health or like just options for people so that more people can play this, because it's so good. Like it's so good. I really want more people to be able to play this, but it's so hard. So I've said that for a long time. Like I think Celeste really nailed it. Celeste is harder than almost any game I've ever played. But it also has that thing over here where it's like, hey, like we want this to be difficult. It's difficult because that's kind of the point. But also, if you just want to see it, here's invincibility, infinite jumps, infinite dashes, like this sort of stuff, just so you could do it. And I think this game would really benefit from that.
Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't do that with this release. Given the number of games that have come out that have had those features. And I get that Cuphead is almost treated similarly to like a game like Returnal, where it's like, no, it is hard for hard's sake. It is only for like the most elite of players and etc. But given my nephew is 3 and loves the Cuphead show, I still don't understand how I'm expected to like, hey, you like the show, try the video game, and then he just can't do it. It doesn't.
You're gonna learn today.
Yeah. That's a great reference. I think the counterpoint to that would probably be that like when we were growing up and it was SNES or arcade games that were really tough, like we just played it until we figured it out. Like we just played it until we learned it, and like that was the thing.
And
I mean, that was also a byproduct of the arcade era, though, because like those games being hard was a core tenet of the design because they needed you to put more quarters in
so they can make their money. Yeah.
Like those games are by design. Like it wasn't that it was hard. It was that certain things in arcade games are literally impossible so that they can get more out of you. Like
they're made to be unfair,
right? But like
Dragon's Lair.
But I look at like Cuphead and compare it to like Mega Man 2, 3, the original DuckTales, like insert NES game here basically. And with time and patience and you can develop the skills to be able to play those games. but like having played all of those games and beaten them, I still feel like Cuphead is harder than all of those.
Yeah.
Or
Well, I
again.
mean, while you're playing through Mega Man's levels, you can get your health back. Like
Yeah, exactly.
now, like they added a new charm if you're not playing as Miss Chalice. There is a new charm that gives you health back on your first, second, third, or first, second, fourth, and sixth parries, I think. So like you can potentially get health back if you use that, but like you can't play as Miss Chalice and do that.
right.
So it's like, if you're trying to do that, then you gotta pick your poison,
Yeah.
Um, and I do think that like with homing shots and stuff like that, like there is an argument that like you could literally just hold down the attack button and just focus on dodging, which is like what I do for a lot of them. Like for a lot of those, like I'll use like a homing ability and I'll like just focus on just defense, which is like a totally viable strategy. But I think that they could go further and really lean into like making this game like because I think you could totally blue ocean this game. Like I think you could definitely have this be something that's not just for the most hardcore people, and I think it would benefit. I mean, me as a player and as a critic who loves this game but recognizes sometimes I want to play something for fun and I don't want to just beat my head against a wall until I get it. And the fact that this game, I think, has a lot of potential for that, but it's not really capitalized on, it kind of bums me out,
Sure.
You got to wonder how much of that is just if they didn't have the resources. I know they were adamant about not crunching their team. This
For
game
sure,
still took years to come out for a relatively small amount of content, like incredible
Yeah.
content from the sound of it.
Yes.
But like,
It's all super high quality, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's only one island. Yeah.
I wonder how much, because I'm honestly completely ignorant of what that would take. I wonder how much more time that would take, how many more resources to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I don't know.
generally, well, Celeste being the exception, right? Because that team, I think, is also like famously small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think of like, the Naughty Dogs, the Insomniacs, like these studios that are gigantic, have hundreds of people at them. And it's like, yeah, look at all the accessibility options. It's like, yeah, they have entire teams dedicated to be able to do that.
They look, for sure.
Yeah, like The Last of Us or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's great. I wish it had like those few extra things that would just take it to like an absolute 10. But as it stands, like I mean, this is definitely like within the like 9 area for me. Like it's so good. It's so good. I've actually been tracking my game of the year rankings as I like finish more games. I'm like adding them like to the list and like would I put it above this or below this or something like that. And
It's all
Cuphead,
Dragon Ball, huh?
what's that?
It's all Dragon Ball.
It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It has been for the last 5 years.
Can't
But
stop.
I definitely think that Cuphead is definitely in the top 5 of the year for me. It's so good. The things that are above it are things that I think are just like exceptional, but I definitely think that Cuphead deserves to be talked about, particularly if this just falls in under the DLC category. Like what else is going to beat it this year? Like as far as DLC, like has there been other like notable DLC that's come out that's like
Lab Coat 21.
ruining the game? I'm speaking of her, I'm so interested to see.
I'm so sorry, Chris. I didn't mean to do this.
Hey, nope.
No, I'm literally, it's
I've been
literally
listening
just
to
a
him talk about
sentence.
Dragon Ball for years. It's fine.
I'm so interested to see what happens when the dust settles on this patch and this character. That's all I had to say.
I know. It's giving you a hard
Because
time.
I know that she's been banned and they made adjustments, but they didn't change her buff. So like, I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I'm really excited to see.
Well, they didn't change her. You talk about her debuff?
Yeah, her debuff is here. What it
can't combo
does
into
when
it.
you
It's a
what it
big
does
deal.
when you land it hasn't been changed, but
It's just way harder to land.
It's harder to get into. Yeah. And it's not invincible anymore, so you can't just use it to bust out of pressure.
Yeah.
It's like a straight up command grab, and I think it's 21 frames, so it's like
It would be.
it's still like borderline unreactable, but yeah.
I have
What?
enough Nintendo Gold points that I can just get the Delicious Last Course for free.
Hey,
I'm gonna do it.
Yummy.
There you
should.
go.
There you go.
Yeah, it's fun. Good luck, dude. It's hard, but it's fun.
I don't know when I'm gonna start Cuphead. I have like 6 indie games that I turn on my Switch and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know if you know, Ronnie. I just finished Hollow Knight.
Oh,
yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you. But
if you can finish Hollow Knight, you can finish Cuphead.
I know I can. It's just a matter
Yeah.
of like sitting down and actually doing it.
Okay.
But
It'll take you way less time too.
yeah, yeah. But there's like it's like that Eastward.
Oh man, I need to play that. Ronnie got that for me, and I really loved the start of it, but I just stepped away for something else.
What's the one that you did that's kind of like Dark Souls? That it's like a lo-fi vibe. Hyper Light Drifter.
Oh, I was definitely gonna say Death's Gambit.
Oh, also that. Or Death's
Are you
Door.
telling me there's more than one Souls-like
Yeah.
in these parts?
Ronnie, I hate to break
don't
it to you,
believe you.
dude. There are so many,
A few.
and there's only gonna be more after Elden Ring.
So, sorry, what else, Chris? You said Eastward.
Oh, Eastward, Dead Cells, Hyper Light Drifter.
Dead Cells is one that you could knock out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Hyper Light Drifter is great.
I love Hyper Light Drifter.
I recommend playing Hyper Light Drifter start to finish if you're gonna do it.
Well, that's just like I'm trying to sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to start this game and play it all the way through. Like I feel like I have a lot of games that are like that right now in my like.
Not
my
like in
radar.
one setting or whatever. Just
no,
like
but like
just like
I don't wanna
make sure
be
that you don't
distracted
take a
by other
break
games.
because that game gets hard.
right.
So yeah, that's great though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's freaking great. Okay, Chris or Ronnie, what else were you guys getting into this week? What do we want to talk about?
Honestly,
Ronnie, what you got? Or
Yeah,
what? What?
go.
Do you have a thought?
No, go
Yeah,
on.
I just went back to back on 2 different reviews. I did the Capcom Fighting Collection and then DNF Duel, so I haven't had a whole lot of time for other things. But one thing I have needed for my own sanity is to find a game I can play that I can't use for work. And so I've been going back to older stuff. And so I've actually been going through the whole Xenoblade Chronicles series, the older ones. Finally finished the definitive edition, and I'm now like 40 hours into 2.
Damn.
And that's a game. Weirdly, it reminds me, only in my own personal experience, it reminds me of Assassin's Creed Unity, in that it's a game where you can kind of see the Matrix and how this thing is just busting apart at the seams. Like, this should not belong on this console.
Oh wow.
Because like the frame rate will drop like crazy. The dynamic resolution, I don't know if it's dynamic. It looks like it, and it certainly drops sometimes. Will just tank.
Is this
but all
handheld
that-
or docked?
Both.
Oh,
It's fuzzy, more fuzzy docked for sure. I have the OLED Switch, so it does look pretty nice on there, and I love the art style. The music's incredible, but just the Switch is basically it's a mobile chip. I think it's one of the old Tegra chips, so it's a mobile phone running a giant RPG with like MMO sized areas and 1,000 things happening on screen at once, and I could look at it and point out all the flaws that bug the crap out of me, but for some reason I just love these games. It's more than the sum of their parts kind of thing. They're very earnest. And despite all the, I say anime trash lovingly. I love anime trash.
We're gonna get into some anime trash.
Don't you wait. Oh, speaking of anime trash, there's Chris.
The big hungry boy.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, I'm like 40 hours into it. I'm excited about 3, but it's going to be a while before I get to it. Other than that, I can't speak on it too much. I just started Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak because I worked for about 3 weeks straight and then went to LA and came back for the whole Summer Game Fest thing for work. And in the meantime, during that, was trying to level all the way up on PC Monster Hunter Rise to get to Sunbreak, because I had gotten there on Switch, had to start over on PC when that came out, and had to level it again. So had to play another 40 hours before I could get to the new content. But now that I'm here, I've hunted like 4 monsters, and it's good. It's more Monster Hunter. And so there's not much else to say about it yet until I get further in.
Yeah. What are your thoughts and is there anything that you can share with me as somebody who's not played any of the Xenoblade games for the Chronicles, or as somebody who's also a Monster Hunter novice who's only played a little bit of, I think, the game for PSP, which might be Unite 2. I played just a very little of that, and then a very little bit of World, and I think a little bit of the demo for Rise.
Okay. I can start with Monster Hunter in that the way I've actually explained it to fighting game fans is that every weapon is a different fighting game character, basically. It's a brand new move list. It's a new way to play. It's a new way to think about the game. But it's a very particular thing. You've got to really like chasing that new armor set, or really like going into something with a plan and getting your butt kicked a few times until you really know what you want to be doing. So it takes a very particular kind of person. I've grown to really love it. I started with, I think, 3 Ultimate on 3DS. And that's back when all the zones were separate. It wasn't one giant area. You still had to paintball monsters to keep track of them. It was before a lot of the quality of life updates that World brought to it. And then Rise even more with all the different wirebug, like mobility options and things like that. So it is, I can't think of any other series that's harder to figure out if someone will like it than it is Monster Hunter. It's like it grabs onto you or it doesn't, if that makes sense. And
Based
like
on what Josh has said about me on this show, it's already hard to pin down what I think about things.
I have no idea. I'll play a fighting game with you, and I'm like, Brian's either gonna love this or he's gonna hate this, but I don't see him being in the middle somewhere.
It's Brian
yeah,
with most things.
yeah, passionate person.
Yeah,
the
it's
true. I got a fiery personality.
Yeah.
In terms of Xenoblade, like I said, it's a lot of anime trash. If you don't want to be in a game for 70 to 90 hours, you're gonna have to probably look somewhere else. The best way I could describe the feel of it is probably just like a single player MMO in terms of the scale of the areas, how combat is primarily cooldown and positioning based, and like you want to link your character's moves together. So party composition is important. Someone playing a role is important. You want to fight as a cohesive party rather than as just a person. And then there's a ton of side stuff that you can do, and the quality really varies on that stuff. A lot of the side content is not great in Xenoblade games, and there's enough story content to just power you through. There was a problem with actually people being over-leveled in the first game, so in the second one, you gain experience and you level up just through fighting and doing stuff, but you also gain like a pool of experience that's hidden. It's not hidden, but you're not leveling up with it. And then you can sleep at an inn at any time and choose how much you want to level up if you feel like you're like out leveling stuff too quickly, which is pretty cool if you want to do a bunch of side content. And then the way that like your classes are determined is through kind of an in-game gacha mechanic that doesn't cost any real money. There is expansion content that I haven't messed with, but inside the game, there's just random drops for different like side characters that you call blades, that kind of determine if you're a tank or a healer or a damage dealer or things like that. So there is a degree of randomness to it, which means there's going to be some grinding if you want to get kind of the composition you want. But I also kind of enjoy that for whatever reason. I could see it being a problem for a lot of people. It's just kind of what I need right now. So if you need something to jump into and just spend a lot of time with, then those are really fun games. Like I said, they're busting apart at the seams. The second one much more than the first one, so I'm interested to see how the third one runs. But if you look at any screenshot of the battle system of one of those games, it is just like, let's assault every sense at one time to the point where I had to go into, thankfully there's lots of custom audio settings in there. I had to go in there and like turn the character volumes way down because you've got the music, which is excellent, by the way. Music in all the Xenoblade games has been just excellent across the board. Well, X is a different story, but that's kind of a different thing. I didn't like the music in X. But in 1 and 2, You can turn down the music, the battle voices, the like narrator voice, the cutscene volume, the battle sound effects volume, the system sound effects volume. So you can really do that to your liking, which is good because your characters in battle are just screaming constantly. Speaking of anime trash, but
Exactly.
so you've got like these sound effects going off with flashes of lightning and the um, FPS dipping to like 15 at some point, and
Yike.
then like weird rhythm stuff coming up. We've got to press a button when the circle hits exactly in the middle, and then you've got to pay attention to this chain going on in the top right part of the screen. But then you also need to look at the bottom left and make sure your stuff is cooling down correctly so you can switch to the blade that you want. And it's a lot.
Do they
I'm
do they ease you into that at
yes,
all?
yes, yeah. I was going to get to that, and I'm
Okay.
40 hours in, and I'm still getting tutorials for the battle system.
Yeah.
That's just like to
Is
the
it
point
because the
where
depth keeps increasing, or they're just reiterating stuff that you already know?
because the depth keeps increasing.
Okay.
When the game started, it actually seemed a little slow, and like I don't think I like this battle system. Like the main character attacks really slow. It feels really heavy. It's just auto attacks and then like a skill once that recharges every once in a while. But that really, once you start, the game is really party based. Like it's not meant to be played with one character. So you get your party, and then like you really kind of kick things into gear, and you look for like elemental chain combos. And so you want to build your party and then do things in a particular order to where you hit an enemy really hard and then capitalize on like these debuffs that surround them. So you hit them with a debuff, you do a big chain attack, you dump a bunch of damage into them, and a boss's health bar will go like that, which is really satisfying to be able to set all that up and do it correctly.
Yeah.
It's just like maintaining aggro on your tank and making sure your healer's keeping everyone alive, not pulling it, doing too much damage, and it's a lot of management until you can set up that one combo to do just a buttload of damage. So I found that really satisfying. But like I said, I could point at 1,000 things that tell people why they shouldn't play this game. I just really happen to enjoy it. Also, play in Japanese. Like people like the dub.
Yeah. That was
People
gonna be
like
one of my
the dub.
questions.
The dub is bad. Just
Yeah.
play in Japanese. And one more bugaboo, and then I'll stop talking about this 2-year-old game. The localization. I love localizers. I think that's one of the coolest jobs in the industry. One thing that bugs me about this game is that they change almost every character's name. And for someone who's been playing Japanese games for a while, like you listen for like when this character's name is said. So like Pyra, who's one of the main characters, is Homura in the Japanese version. And then Mithra, another character, is Hikari in the Japanese version. So they're not even close. And when they're just throwing these names out over and over, and there's already a big cast to remember, I'm like trying to remember which one's the English one, which one's the Japanese one, and it just kind of takes me out of it a little bit when there's a different name than what they're very clearly saying. And they try to make them all consistent in terms of like the same mythology, which is cool. Like I understand how much work went into the localization of it. I just don't really like the direction they went with the names in particular. That just kind of bugs me.
Yeah.
The as far as the size of the party, like I was watching the direct for 3. They said there's up to 7 characters that you can have at a party there. Do you know, like, how many people can you have in your party in 1 and then 2? Like, does it seem like it scales up pretty well, or like?
Yeah, and in both 1 and 2, you have 3 characters that you can have in a party. But the difference with 2 is that each one of those characters has 3 characters they can equip to that character.
Oh wow!
So a character that you can control is called a driver, and then like they're not Pokemon, but the Pokemon that they can use are called blades, basically. And you're switching out those blades, and every time you do that, you're changing your class and your element every time you switch one of those, and you can change mid-battle.
Okay.
And so it's like this character has 3 classes, this character has 3 classes, and this character has 3 classes. And so it's a lot to keep track of, but that's also why there's 30 to 40 hours of tutorials to get you going there. And if I were to just jump it, actually I did this when I first lived in San Francisco and had to commute to work. I played Torna, the Golden Country, which is the expansion for 2 before I played 2, just because
How did you do that?
it was a weird time. Someone had told me you could play it without playing the base game. Don't do that. I had no idea what was happening, because they throw you into like almost like a full party and like the systems of the base game, and I was like, I don't know what's happening here. And they tried to
Yeah.
explain it. I still wasn't getting it, so I ended up putting that down, and then came back to 2 a few years later, and am really enjoying it now that I have some time to play it when less is coming out currently.
I think that I will probably not try Xenoblade Chronicles right now, because I think if I was going to play an RPG, like a party-based RPG, I would probably jump into Tales of Arise instead.
I love Tales of Arise.
But I am interested in and you said that Xenoblade Chronicles is single player, but it kind of mimics MMO play. And that's not multiplayer at all. It's just purely single player, right?
Right. There might be a multiplayer mode, but if there is, it's ancillary somewhere. I've never played it.
Okay. But Monster Hunter is multiplayer. Can you play like most of that game multiplayer? Like is that a way?
You can play pretty much the entire game single player. It's going to be really hard at times, but I grinded through almost all of Rise single player. I had a few people come and help me with a few of the fights just to make things go quicker, but you can definitely do it all on your own.
Yeah,
I guess I was just trying to think of something because I've been interested in Monster Hunter, and there is an element that I'm like, something about this, like I've tried it multiple times, it's just never really clicked with me. But like that happened with Souls. Like I tried Dark Souls 1, I tried Demon Souls, and it didn't really click with me until it did. And then I loved it. So
yeah.
I suspect that there is a possibility that Monster Hunter could be something that is for me. But the idea that I could jump in as like, maybe I'll have somebody like Sherpa me through it or something like that is, I think, more appealing than just trying to jump in and parse everything myself.
Yeah, I know you and I have been looking for more co-op stuff, so I'd be totally willing to do that. Also, there's tons of YouTube channels like Eric's Gaming and Gaijin Hunter. They'll just do a 30-minute breakdown on one weapon. And so you could just
Gaijin Hunter?
Yeah, pretty funny. He's a nice guy. I've talked to him on Twitter some, but yeah, he's been in the industry Monster Hunter industry for a long time, and has been like at the forefront of guide content for that series.
Yeah, we didn't, a lot of people don't know this, but Monster Hunter is actually the 6th biggest economy in the world.
That's true. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Right behind Germany.
Yeah.
I have no idea where Germany is.
Yeah. No. But yeah, so that is that's that.
Chris, you were going to say something there?
Oh, no, I was just going to say two things. One is that the way Monster Hunter has always been described to me, it sounds like the first time you go to Chipotle or the first few times you go to Chipotle, where like you're like, okay, they have all this shit and I don't know what's good, but I'm just going to keep trying it until I finally figure out what my order is. It seems like it's that type of game. And I mean, Destiny was very similar, right? Where it's like, okay, do you play like a hand cannon? Do you play, SMG or whatever? It seems like that type of game. But it also is like, it seems like there's a social aspect to it where if you do have people that you can run with, like even if you're dying, at least you're hanging out with friends. So like it is fun in that regard. The other thing I will say is the way that friend of the show, James Clark, described it, or at least his experiences with it, was he plays games like easy mode, dad mode, however you want to call it. And if he starts to get frustrated in Monster Hunter, he will just like call in the cavalry and request that people. He's like, I have like, I'll have parties of 3 or 4 guys from like Japan who are super leveled out. And like, this is all they do is play Monster Hunter, and they'll just like drop into his game and help him, slay whatever giant monster he's trying to kill, just so he can get, the parts or whatever he needs for the gear that he wants. But apparently that is like a super common thing in Rise.
Yeah, it's a very cool community too. They generally, from what I've seen, I don't want to generalize too much, but people are like want to be very helpful. They're excited that people are excited about the game.
Yeah.
And you're going to run into jerks everywhere. Like, don't sweep people with a long sword constantly. That's kind of annoying. But there's a lot of really cool people out there who just want to help others learn. So there's a ton of content on YouTube, especially that just teaches you how to play.
Cool.
Yeah.
Chris, did you want to jump into what you've been getting into?
I oddly enough I was pretty disconnected from the internet and like electronics at large this past week. Spent a lot of time. I had the week off because I am starting a new job tomorrow, and I was like, you know what? I have all this free time, and I don't want to be just like tied down to a console or on my couch or anything like that. So I actually bought my first Lego set. Not counting Lego Dimensions, for probably the first time in 15 to 20 years.
Wow.
And I am still working on it. But man,
What is it?
It is. I got the Super Mario question mark cube.
Okay.
Which if you haven't seen that, there's videos of it, on YouTube and ads and things like that. But basically, it is the question block from Mario Brothers. And then it unfolds, and there's like different levels from Super Mario 64 in it. So I've finished the Lethal Lava Land. I finished that like plate.
Okay.
And now I'm working on the courtyard where Peach's Castle is. But it is a really cool set. And I was actually making a joke, being like, I'm this adult that, is playing with like children's toys aged, and I picked up the box and I was like 18 and up. Like I was shocked that it was actually for,
Oh, wow.
it's actually made for adults and not,
I mean, we grew up with Legos, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Every time they print the boxes, they just update it to be whatever age the people would be now.
Yeah.
They've got one dude in mind that they just age it with him every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want that job.
Hey,
Yeah,
Jeff,
right.
when's your birthday? Okay, we gotta age them up.
Keep
It's
going.
21 and up now. Yeah.
It is remarkable how, like I haven't like looked at a Lego set in I don't know how long. But the fact that it is somebody's job to figure out how this thing needs to go together, what parts they need for it, and then build like CAD drawings of it and put together what is like, I think a 200-page instruction manual on how to build this thing. Like, Legos are cool. That's all I'm trying to say.
They're very cool.
Very cool.
But there are all sorts of sets out there now that are super complicated like this. There's one that's a typewriter that I really want to get. And it
Does
actually,
it, like, sting?
Yep, like it'll move.
Oh my gosh.
And then depending on the keys that you press, it will actually like hit the little flippers like on in that order. It doesn't
Not too
actually
far.
type ink, but it's like mechanically it is very impressive.
It's the dreams of physical media.
Yeah.
Not too far.
Yeah. But no, if you have the room, I encourage any of you to, put it on a Christmas list or start saving up for like a super expensive Lego set, because it has been a long time since I built one, and like, man, I'm having a ton of fun doing it.
Yeah, that's what stops me currently is the cost.
Yeah.
Like, my primary hobby is already so expensive. I'm also getting very into disc golf, which is like, oh, buy more discs.
Yep.
It's like there's always something new to buy for whatever hobby you have, and I'm like, I don't know if I can go down this road as much as I want to.
Yeah.
leads to only pain.
Yeah.
We this weekend we actually I watched Titanic for the first time. And so ever.
Wow.
I mean, I'd seen bits of it, but I'd never seen the whole thing.
Wow, that's impressive.
Getting ready for Avatar too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All the James Cameron films.
But we got to the end of it, and then Audrey was like, I just looked it up. There's a Lego Titanic set. And then she told me how much it was, and it was ridiculous.
Have you seen how big it is? Like, that's the
No.
problem is, like,
It's huge.
the question block one, like, I have a spot that I can put that in the office, and that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was like, I have to be able to display it somewhere. But, like, I'm never going to get the Death Star. I'm never going to get at least not in this house. Like, the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff's never going to happen.
You get a side house for that.
Yeah. That's what my
And by
summer
then,
home
like,
is for.
Yeah.
What's a $650 Lego set when you're buying a new house? Did Audrey paint you like one of her French girls? Hey, a gentleman never kisses and tells.
All right, I'm out.
Ooh.
Later. But the when we were talking about aging up the Legos, and Ronnie, you said, yeah, this is 21 and up now. I thought, what a awesome thing it would be to like pair an alcohol with a Lego set and
That would
have
be
it be
cool.
like challenge mode. Like, here it is. Here's a drink that you can drink. Here's like a tequila drink while you're building like one of the beach sets from Lost or something, like something ridiculous
Yeah.
like that. Like,
You get to
here's
page
a
15 and take a shot.
Yeah.
exactly. Like, put this together, like, you know,
sounds rough.
do that sort of thing. That sounds like a really fun thing to do at like a barcade or
Oh,
something.
yeah.
For sure.
Like, that'd be awesome. But yeah, that's just something that I thought of, like 21 and up Lego sets, like specific, like it comes with like rows of shots, and then like, this is the Death Star. This is the part when Obi-Wan turns off the tractor beam. You know,
It's almost like an advent calendar, but you get trashed while you're doing it, and it's also
exactly.
fun. Yeah.
Exactly.
That checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if you guys don't have anything else, then I've just got one more game, and then we can call it a night. What do you say?
Yeah.
I'm good.
So the last game that I literally just beat, I think like 20 minutes before we started the show, is Yurukill, the Calumniation Games. Let's see if we can get this to focus in.
All I see is Dragon Ball Fighters.
And
There it is.
Is it Blaze Blue? It looks like Blaze Blue. But
It's not Blaze Blue.
Yeah.
So Yurukill is a really interesting game. It is, I think, also around $50. It's available on a bunch of different things. Yeah, it's $50. It's available on PS4, PS5, Switch, PC, and should have prepped this information before
Is
I got
calumniation
onto
a word, or is this more anime trash?
I think they made it up.
They never mention it, so I don't know. I actually didn't search that.
The first article is from IGN Italy.
Nice. All right. So the this is like Catherine levels of, I've never seen this combination of genres before. So Yurukill is half escape room puzzle solving game and half vertically scrolling bullet hell shooter. Which, if that sounds weird, it is. But so like half of the time you're doing like 999 zero escape Danganronpa stuff where you're trying to make your way through like demented amusement park recreations of crimes that the different characters are accused of and were actually convicted for. And then half of it is vertical scrolling, multi-stage with boss fight, like bullet hell shooter, like Raiden, Ikaruga, like these sorts of games. So it scratches two very interesting itches that I've never put together before.
This has some extremely strong Persona 5 energy on the link I just posted.
Let me look at this.
Like all the actual branding for the game.
I actually don't see it. Hold on.
Did you spell calumniation wrong? Maybe that's your problem.
But yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah,
it's
I see it.
yeah, so it's wild. The how long to beat is around 20 hours. Let me actually check how long I played it for. Because I think I beat it faster than that. 15 hours or more. So they told me it was around 20 hours. I beat it in 15. So it's not very long. Also, one thing that I would say about this game is, if you're a little bit hesitant to jump into stuff that's like based on room escape or puzzle solving and stuff like that, I will say this is the easiest one of those that I have played. And it also has 3 different difficulty settings for both parts of the game. So you can select how difficult you want the puzzle solving to be, and you can select how difficult you want the bullet hell sections to be. And you can also turn those difficulties down at any point, but you can't turn them up. And because I actually found the puzzle sections to largely be very easy, I would probably recommend that you start on expert, and then if it's too hard, just like bump it down one level or so. I largely found the bullet hell stuff to be pretty easy too. The rhythm of the game, I'll go through the big picture premise of the game, and then I'll give you like the rhythm of the games, just so you guys will know kind of what it is like. So the idea is you play this character. You play as a bunch of different characters, but the main character is this guy named Sengoku, and he claims falsely convicted for mass murder for blowing up an apartment building and killing everybody inside. He was a delivery driver. He claims that he was just sleeping in his delivery truck after a delivery when everything went down, and that but he couldn't prove his innocence. A bunch of stuff was like planted on him. He was basically framed for this. Him and a bunch of other prisoners in similar circumstances that protest their innocence were kidnapped, put on a ship, and brought to this island, which is called like Yurukill Park or something like that. It's basically an amusement park that was built based on all of these crimes that they were accused of. And the idea is that if the prisoner can make it through these deadly games to the end, they'll be exonerated. If they don't, they'll die. Or another thing that comes up later is that they'll go back to prison and they just won't be able to escape. They'll just have to serve their sentences and stuff. But they're also, for these games, they are teamed up with another person, the executioner. This executioner has a button on them at all times that if they press it, the prisoner will be killed immediately. These people are also the victims of the crimes that the prisoners have supposedly perpetrated. So they have
like their personal victim.
Yes.
Okay.
So you have to team up the prisoners who are protesting their innocence and saying they've been falsely accused are being forced to team up with the person that was the victims of the crimes that they were supposed to have committed.
Did the victims sign up for this?
Yes.
Okay.
Because once they get to the end, if the executioners get to the end, they'll have any wish granted. So
I feel like their wish should just be press the button.
Yeah, but you could want something else, like because you can do both. Like, you know what I mean?
Down.
So
no downside.
There really isn't. And not only that, the executioners are in no danger during the games. Only the prisoner is. So it's very one-sided. The idea is that, like, if you can get through and try to find some evidence that you were like that you're innocent, if you can convince the executioner and get them on your side, maybe that'll give you an edge or something like that. But only one team can win. So you're pitted against like 4 other teams or something like that. And the idea is you're also trying to get an edge over your enemies and things like this. So there are a bunch of different teams. As you go through the game, the general rhythm is you play through a series of escape rooms, you gather evidence, you try to solve a mystery, you try to solve these puzzles. Then you get to the next level where you play like, I think 3 stages of the bullet hell shooter. And then you fight the boss. You use the evidence that you found after the boss fight. There's like an evidence presenting thing like in Danganronpa where you take some of the stuff from the attraction that you just cleared and you try to use that to convince, like you answer quizzes and stuff like that on your way through these levels that kind of shows whether you've been paying attention and putting the pieces together. And then at the end, it's like, what piece of evidence can you present that will cast doubt on your guilt or help convince them of your innocence and that sort of a thing, and like bring them closer to your side. And then it rotates to the next group and you play as them for their section, and it keeps going around like that. And then there's like 2 extra rounds where everybody comes together and it's like more of a direct competition where people are in the same place trying to solve the same thing. And then there's like a finale. And that's kind of how the game goes. So you spend like, I don't know, maybe an hour, hour and a half in each of these little sections as you're going around. If you're interested in score chasing and score attack stuff, after you clear or after you reach the bullet hell things, you can actually back out to the main menu and do score attack in those if you just want to play that section of it, which is cool. And there's also like leaderboards and everything online. Like you can check that, which is kind of wild in a game like this. Like it's so weird. You know, like with Catherine, which is like half dating sim, half like puzzle tower climber. Yeah, that sort of a thing. Where it's just like, this is such a weird mashup, but like it kind of works for me.
Kind of
So-
like, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just gonna say, so is it good? Like you've kind of told us what it is, but you haven't really told us your opinion on it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Cool.
It definitely has been added to like my favorites things. This is definitely one of those games where Il Girl Chill in the chat says this almost sounds like Paradise Killer. Kind of, except without the tedium because everything's very linear. Like it's not open world. You don't have to wander around. Like you're very specifically like, I'm going to the room on the left. Here's the puzzle in this room. I got the stuff that I want. I'm going back to the middle room. I'm going to the room on the right, gathering stuff, coming back to the middle room. Here's the final solution. I move up to the next level. Like it's very focused, which
Like
I think is to his credit.
My wife and I have played through the first 2 Danganronpas. We're gonna watch the anime before we play the third one, but it's a small gripe, but it really isn't after a big time or a long time playing it. But one of my most annoying pet peeves about the second game in particular is how slowly you turn
Yeah.
and you move in that world.
Yeah.
Like, because you do so much just random walking around that part can just get super tedious. So it's good to hear that some of that gets chopped out in this one.
Yeah. Like, you don't have free look in this game. Like it is just like you see the screen. We're in this room now. You can, in some rooms, you can lightly pan to the left or right just to like see like the left wall where the door is to go to the next room, or this other one, or maybe there's like a painting over here that you can like pivot and look at. But other than like light panning left and right, like that's it.
Okay.
And everything else is just, it takes you from one point to the next. But yeah, I like it a lot. Let me look through some of my notes.
I don't know why. Like I just hearing you talk about it, it almost seems like the way that people that have played Nier Automata have like described that game to people that have not. Just that it's like, well, it's a bullet hell, but it's an open world, but it's a 3D action platformer, but it's also this other.
I mean,
thing,
yeah,
and,
I've played a little bit of Nier Automata, and like, yeah, it is kind of like that, but this is much more like a 50-50 split. Unlike that, which is like, it starts with this with like a vertical scrolling, shoot 'em up part, and then it's like a side scrolling like action hack and slash thing, but most of it's a third person like action game.
Right.
Whatever. Yeah. This is like straight up, it just ping pongs back and forth between these things.
Yeah.
As a quick aside, I have Googled calumniation, if that is indeed how you pronounce it.
Yeah. What does it mean?
The definition is noun form of calumniate. So I go to calumniate. Make false and defamatory statements about.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
We learned something today. Look at that.
So
Used on my
they
next
could have just said
crossword.
the defamation games,
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
and that would have been cool.
Calumniation's a cool word. I'm gonna use that from now on.
It is.
Get it tattooed on my neck.
Ronnie, don't you dare calumniate me.
Too late.
God damn it. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah. So it does get. So I played it on Switch. I would have asked for a PC key, except I actually was sent a special edition. I was sent like a press kit with this game in it, from NIS. It actually came with a Rubik's Cube that has like the different faces are like the different teams, which is cool. I'm having a hell of a time trying to put that stuff back together. I got one side of it done. The side with Binko, which is the very
It's Lethal Lava Land, right?
exactly. Yeah, so Binko is like the host of the games and is like a very interesting like bizarre character.
Monokuma.
I kind of.
Yeah.
Except it's a woman with a fox mask.
Naturally.
And like
Yeah.
fancy hair, and she says
Sure.
bin bin and Yurukill, that sort of thing. But I will say the voice acting is so good, particularly on Binko.
The English voice acting?
It's only Japanese.
Only Japanese. Okay.
It's only Japanese. But the voice acting is so good. Binko ping pongs between being like almost like demure, sexy, and then being like extremely over the top silly, and then like intense, and like she'll get real gritty, like almost like a metal singer or something like that. And then and it just, this person seems like manic, but at the same time, like they're so polite and stuff like that. But then they can get really intense. Like it's jarring in a good way. Like I really like Binko. I think that one of the big draws about Danganronpa is Monokuma is like a really interesting character.
Yeah.
And I think that Binko is also really
Okay.
like really cool.
You need a good host for
You
these
do.
games to function. Yeah.
You do need a good host. And a lot of the stuff specifically that happens in the semifinal and final rounds with Binko, and then the post-credits kind of stinger, makes me even more of a fan of the character. And they've definitely they definitely set it up where there could be a sequel.
Cool.
And I would certainly play it. There are some things that I would like to see kind of switched up. Some of the little cutscenes and stuff look like they're from like the PS1. Like it's pretty
Is that
bad.
intentional?
I don't know. Like maybe. There's like some dead time. There's like some lag time between like when you choose an answer to something and then your little fighter jet fires up like this huge beam and shoots it, which goes on for like 10 seconds. And there's no reason for it to go on that long, or like slowly like charge up or something like that. And it looks like there's a bunch of slowdown happening.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm playing on Switch. I don't have a frame of reference. I don't know if it's different on PC or on PlayStation or anything.
Right.
But a lot of it is like, this is like wireframe, like reboot kind of.
Like Lawnmower Man kind of stuff.
I didn't see Lawnmower Man, but like definitely like early in like Hypnospace Outlaw almost levels of like weird wireframe, like Star Fox kind of stuff. It's not that like low poly, but there's an element of it that definitely looks like, oh, this is like a PS1 level of fidelity with this.
Interesting.
Somewhere between FF7 Remake and the door texture on FF7 Remake.
So yeah, basically.
Somewhere in that scale.
Yeah, so unfortunately, because they bounce between groups between each of the sections and each of the chapters in the game, that means that when those characters get to certain parts in their struggle, mechanics get explained that the player already knows, but the characters don't. And they don't take that long, but it was just like a little like we couldn't find a way around this.
Yeah.
Like, like we get to a thing and there's like a shield that pops up over the boss and they're like, oh, what is this? I can't damage it. And it's like, this is the mind wall. You'll have to destroy it to be able to convince your enemy of your thing. And it's like hearing that like 5 times is like, I just don't
its own
need to hear
kind
it.
of mind wall.
It's only like two lines or something like that. But it was just like to see these sorts of things get explained, or like, oh, we're gonna stick you in this VR capsule and have you like hooked up to like something and then do this like ship combat thing. Like just those little things I think that they could clean up and like make the game better.
That's most well, I don't want to
Say it.
A lot of Japanese games do that, right? Like the Persona games especially. It's my biggest gripe with them. And it's why I stopped playing Persona 5. It's like, "Wait, so you're going to tell me that the bad guy did this? Yeah, I can't believe the bad guy did this. Wow,
Yeah.
we got to stop the bad guy cuz he did this." Like and it goes on, and it's every time they enter a goddamn room and it's just like I can't listen to it anymore.
This isn't that bad, but there is an element of that in here.
Okay.
Where you know, it's like, I'm innocent. How many times can you tell me that? You know, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not bad. But yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of it. The end does have some cool twists, but it's also like kind of anime trash silly.
Give it to me.
But yeah, it's yeah, I would certainly play a sequel to this game. I think it's cool. This is definitely let me see. Yeah, I guess there are a few like first time out of the gate like new properties that are on my like top games list this year. Yeah, I guess most of them actually. Or are like licensed follow-ups or something like that. But I was gonna say like it's a cool idea, and I like it. Like I like the idea that like if you're trying to scratch both of these like very niche itches, like you could do it. Like, you know, I typically don't play bullet hells, but it was nice being able to revisit something like that now, like to play something like that in this like weird, barely justified story, like, you know. But yeah,
Throw a bone to the bullet hell perverts out there.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like there are like
Let's see.
certain gripes that I have where like some of the attacks of enemies in the bullet hell section are like glowing pink or like very bright and vibrant, and others are just like this just looks like a small rotating like pillar that's like I'm not sure if this is part of the background or part of the foreground. Oh, I died. It's fine. But as you're going through, like it feeds into each other. So after you finish the attraction sections, you have to answer like quizzes, and based on the number of right answers you get, that determines how many lives you have in the bullet hell section. And then if you when you get to the end of the bullet hell section, but before the boss, you have to like present your evidence to change the mind of your executioner. And every time you get a wrong answer, it takes away 3 of your lives. So on easy, you have like if you answer all the 5 quiz things correctly, you get 30 lives. On normal, you have 20 if you get all of them right, and I'm assuming on expert you have like 10 lives or something. But you also, I actually the game crashed once for me, right after I had beaten the boss on the bullet hell section, and since it crashed like to the Switch main screen, I had to go back in, and because it doesn't let you save anywhere on the bullet hell sections, I had to redo all of that over again, which really sucked.
That's rough.
Yeah.
And that was already because each of the prisoners has a different ship type and they have different power-ups and different things like that. That was already a hard one, and I think I finished it with like 1 life left, and I'm like, fuck it, bumping it down to easy. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
As I've gotten older, that's been the cardinal sin of any game, is just wasting my time like that. Like I can't. I could deal with a lot of stuff in games. I can't deal with something just deliberately wasting my time. Obviously not deliberately, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But it does auto save between like sections, so like I didn't have to read. It wasn't since the last time I'd hard saved, but I did have to do just that bullet hell section from like the levels and then the boss fight and then do that again.
Yeah.
Including all the present your evidence to convince the thing and do the quizzes again. But like, you know, whatever. It wasn't that long. I think I had to replay like 20 minutes, 30 minutes maybe, something like that, which wasn't super bad in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got to say about that. If I had to rate it, I would probably give this one a 7 or 8. It's got its issues, but I think it's
like it.
Yeah, it's got its issues, but I think it's very charming. Cool. And you know, it's fun. So
nice.
that's all I got, and that's all we got. everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us. Ronnie, thanks as always
Thank you for
hanging
being
out
here. Yeah.
Appreciate it. I've got this entire week off, so I wasn't doing anything.
Hell yeah,
It's
dude.
just great.
I'm really let's play some games. I don't care whether they're fighting or co-op. I wanna and hey, let's go grab some coffee or something.
You got it.
do it.
We happen to live close to each other.
We
Imagine
do.
that.
I'm very fortunate.
It's hot as balls outside.
It's so stupid. I went for a walk earlier today and I was sweating profusely and I was only gone for like 10 minutes.
Okay, I've been sorry. I know we're trying to get out of here, but I have been disc golfing recently, and like I've been going out about 6 a.m. or 6:30 because there's no one on the course yet. My wife might need the car later in the day, and that is the only time where it's possible to play and not pass out due to heat stroke.
Yeah.
Because like I'll be done at 9 a.m. and I'm completely soaked all the way through. My disc is sticking to my hands. Like it is.
Wow.
It is rough out there right now. So
It is 90s to 100s.
yeah,
It was a
10
couple of
a.m.
days when it rained and it was like, hey, it's like 85. And I'm
It
like,
just got muggier after that. Yeah.
yeah.
I had looked on the my weather app, the feels like section, and it was 10 a.m. and it said 102. And I was like, yeah, that certainly feels like 102. I'm gonna go sleep. So
No, thank you.
let's go
It really
find something
sucks.
to do inside.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's play some games.
I'm down.
But yeah, thanks everybody for joining us on episode 237. Can you believe it? So
And
many episodes.
Can you believe it?
If you can believe it, it's episode 237 again. Anyways, you can watch us record each episode live at twitch.tv/platformerspod. You can check out the archived episodes at youtube.com/platformerspod. And you can hit us up on Twitter at twitter.com/platformerspod. If you want to check out the stuff that I do, you can follow me on Twitter at Ribnax, RIBNAX. You can check out my guides over at GameSpot and IGN. And you can follow me on Twitter or on Twitch, twitch.tv/Ribnax. I've been streaming the road to 100% for Elden Ring. I'm almost done. I've only got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas left, I guess. But man, I'm not as far as I thought. But yeah, so that's a lot of fun. I stream over there infrequently, but now that I've just wrapped up my last review for the time being, I'll probably be doing a bit more of that. So follow me over there, and please follow me over on YouTube. The link is on my Twitch because I'm trying to get up enough followers where I can actually set a channel name, so it's not just a string of ridiculous numbers and letters. And of course, if you follow me over at Twitch, I'll be able to set channel rewards and stuff like that, which I'm so excited for. But that's what I've got going on. Chris, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at Shrives93. You can also find me on the Toadstool Boardroom with Logan Plant and Odell Harmon Jr. New episodes for that come out every Thursday.
Ronnie, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at Ronny_barrier or at IGN.com. If you want to see the Capcom Fighting Collection or DNF Duel reviews, I'm up there. I also just wrote a piece about Unreal 5 where I talked to a bunch of developers and asked them what they thought about the new engine and how it could kind of change what they're doing. I'm really proud of that one, so go check it out. It's called What Unreal 5 Means for the Games Industry, and it's a fun piece. Took a lot of work.
Nice.
Cool. Keep up the good work, buddy. You're
Thank you.
crushing it.
We're proud of you.
Thank you.
We really
Chris.
are.
It means a lot coming from you.
Heck yeah, man. Look at that. Look at that cute boy in that pink shirt.
It's adorable.
Anyways, please review us on your podcast platforms of choice. And if you love the show, share it with friends and family. And I guess happy July 4th if you're out there celebrating. From everybody here at the Platformers, we hope that you have a wonderful week and stay safe out there. Because until next time, we are out.